All right, GM everyone, welcome to another edition of Pinto Town Hall. A bit of a light crew today, but we are in the thick of it. I guess at 40 cents, it's a little cold for people to come out to the farm today, but we persist. So we'll run this the way we've been running them. We'll go around hearing from contributors, and then depending on how much time there is, which I expect there will be quite a bit. We'll open up the floor if anyone wants to bring stuff up, questions, thoughts, etc. And then maybe I'll share a bit of what's on my mind. All right, let's kick it off with Frijo. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doing well. This week, I've been working on a couple things. With the restrict migration, that's getting ready for release. I've just mined all the wells we need to, or all the addresses we need to deploy that, and sent that to the front end and middleware, so everything should be ready on that end. Otherwise, for the sole referral, we wanted to add one more feature where people have the option to delegate their referral to another address. So, this is in the instance where people want to have, their pods or whatever they receive it, in another address for privacy reasons, and have that implemented. So now that's finalized. Let's see. The only thing else I've been working on is
just getting some feedback from your end.
sorry, give me 1 second.
It sounded like some sound effects from like Metropolis or something. For any old cinematography fans. All right. Frijo, you back?
Is the sound effect still there?
I don't think so. You're back in 2025.
Love it, love it. Otherwise, I'm just looking at the tasks I wrote for this week. Let's see. Otherwise, I was QCing the various PRs from the front end and writing some specs for the various contributors here. So that was taking a lot of my time, getting better at writing specs. This week I intend to finish out the WSTETH migration, the pod referral, and there are a couple of outstanding PRs I need to approve from the other contributors, and I need to work on this fee spec. In the previous conversations, we talked about how we could potentially add a fee to the wells and Pintel and give the fees in terms, or charge the fees in terms of Pintel and give it to the protocol itself. So currently in the mid of, writing that spec.
Awesome. I think that's going to be a very cool feature. I mean, ultimately, there's not that much volume right now, so I don't expect it will generate particularly high fees. I'm curious, have you done any data analysis on that to know how much fees it would be generating at the moment in terms of like an APY?
Yeah, I did some napkin math, given the current L2SR and current volume, it's probably like 1% APY. But I didn't do any back calculations, back when Pinto just was released, it was way more substantial. So I agree with your point, but yeah, it will be a great feature to have once more volume kicks in.
Very cool. And converts are going to be exempt, right?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the update, Frijo. Anything else?
Nothing on my end. It's been recently a joy to be writing specs and helping the other contributors, on their onboarding process. It's been very inspiring to see.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, on that note, why don't we kick it over to some of the new contributors? Extypen, how are you, sir?
Hello, doing well, thanks. Last 2 weeks, I'm working on some UX and gas efficiency protocol upgrades. Last week I was working on off-chain dynamic call data instructor, and it's still under review. This week, I'm focused on introducing multi-batch functions in the pod marketplace. So users can perform multiple operations within a single function call. So our goal is getting more gas efficient functions, and that's all from my side.
That's great. And how are things going? How are you finding the onboarding?
Everything is good. Day by day, I'm getting onboarded. Nothing bad for now.
Awesome. Awesome. You still planning on going to DevConnect, sir?
Yeah, I will be there.
Amazing. All right. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you, and hopefully we'll hang out at the Pinto workshop, which we'll be having down there. So, looking forward to seeing you soon, sir.
Yeah, definitely. I will be in the workshop.
Wonderful. All right. Why don't we kick it over to our other newest contributor, Feyyaz? How are you, sir?
Hello everyone, I'm doing well. Everyone is good.
Hey,
Uh,
Feyyaz, I think your microphone's a little messed up. Can you try to fix that?
yeah,
Now I think it's better. Maybe not.
okay, yeah. I'm
Go
good,
ahead.
thank you. I hope everyone is good, all is well.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. This week, I'm updating Podmark space, as you know. We update again Podmark space. I hope this week you can see selected range of purchases will now be dynamically reflected to the UI, so users can easily understand. And additionally, I'll be working on simplifying tractor orders. That's all on my side.
Nice. And how are you finding things? How's the onboarding going for you?
Actually, it was great. And it's really good to work here and contribute to Pinto. It's my second week. So thank you for these environments.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Why don't we kick it over to Burr? How are you, sir?
Is it
If you're
as to me?
no. Burr,
Okay,
if
sorry.
you're looking for Burr, if Burr is around, I don't know if your microphone is working. How you doing, sir? I think their microphone might be messed up. All right. In the meantime, while Burr tries to fix his microphone, why don't we go to Pinto Pirate? How are you, sir?
GM, everyone. I'm doing well. On this end, on the farm, I've been spraying some pesticide this week. We've had some bugs, some issues that I've been fixing.
Pesticides.
Yep.
Hey,
You gotta keep those bugs away. Yeah, there was just a few little issues. Well, some not so little, but yeah, there was an issue with the bots was missing some info about the convert up on the silo messages, so I fixed that. And then there was some issues like affecting like the uptime of like the website and some of the other services. That was fixed. Then we had like a little thing briefly yesterday where some of the field charts weren't loading. But everything is well now on the farm, and I've also been preparing the systems for the WSTETH migration, so that's looking pretty good at this point. for whenever that gets deployed on chain. And then I'm still working on some of those efficiency improvements for just better real-time processing of the tractor orders. And I think that'll be done pretty soon, maybe by the end of
Hey, can you guys hear me? My Wi-Fi just glitched
Oh.
out on me.
I can hear you now.
Now we can.
Right. Thank you very much for that update, Pirate. Seems like it was quite a busy week for you. Thank you for your vigilance, fighting the bugs. Yeah. All right. Burr, are you back? Can we hear you? No, we still can't hear you, my friend. All right. Pintecito, what's up on your end?
GM fella, it's great to hear everybody cranking away. Good to check in. How are you, Ben?
I'm well. I'm gearing up to head down to the southern hemisphere, as they say.
Indeed. Well, that's been top of mind for me. Getting ready to go down there and make a bunch of connections, try to get a lot of feedback, talk to some target users, help people understand what's working and not working in the onboarding process, help people share their appetite, if there is, for this project, what is exciting about it. So very excited to get some information there. Otherwise, on my end, other than doing preparations for that and for your various speaking engagements, which looking forward to, I have been mostly heads down on Nebula, which I know you've shared about now. So very excited about that. Otherwise, just continuing with various social communications, some communications with external teams, getting ready to do this pod referral system that Frijo has talked about. So been lending a little bit of attention there, although he has been spearheading that with the dev team. So other than that, yeah, just a couple back office things relating to our bug bounty program, and as well as a couple different applications and external comms as we try to continue to broaden our reach, see if there are relevant partnerships that we should be doing at this time. But yeah, mostly head down on Nebula right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Pintecito. Burr, we are going to check with you a third and final time, sir. No, I'm just kidding. If it still doesn't work, we can check again afterwards. But how's your microphone? Can we hear you?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir. He's in.
Okay,
He's here.
awesome.
Welcome.
Yeah, sorry about that. So this week I have been working on the WSTETH migration, just making sure that the UI is going to be a good place for deployment. We're making good progress there. I've been making changes to the UI as well as the Exchange UI as well, making sure that that is also ready as well. So yeah, just going to be checking on that in the next couple of days.
Wonderful. Thank you for the update, sir.
Mhm.
Okay. On my end, gearing up for a variety of different speaking opportunities in Buenos Aires. Going to be on a panel at the Stable Summit, which we've done some collaborations with those folks before. Quite big fans of their stuff, and they're highly motivated to help us spread the good word about our work. And so they have us on a panel with FX protocol, with Rye, and one other protocol. So I think that will be very interesting. If anyone listening is in Buenos Aires, I highly encourage you to come. Additionally, we will be hosting, as I mentioned when Extypen was speaking earlier, a Pinto workshop where we will basically have an opportunity to meet some folks that are curious and walk them through each of the different layers of the model in plain English. This will be building off of the work that Pintacito and I did over the past couple months writing these docs, and I think it's going to be great. And then third, there is a pitch competition, which we've been invited to speak at, where we'll have an opportunity to get on stage and present Pinto. So, yeah, a lot of stuff coming up next week. I think for now we'll plan to keep the town hall as it's normally scheduled, although we'll see how that ends up going, because I think there's a lot of stuff happening this time next week. But hopefully we'll be able to make it happen. And otherwise, been getting ready to basically, there's a big decision to make now about what's next for the protocol. What does layer 5 look like? How do we, with the upcoming fork system, reintroduce governance into this bad boy? Some big open questions now that layer 4 of the protocol has been completed. So I've spent quite a good deal of time thinking about what to do, and how to set this next year up so that the protocol can be moved in the furthest in the right direction, I should say. So that's pretty much it on my end. All right, gonna open up the floor. Don't see too big of a crowd, so I don't anticipate too many questions or topics, but if anyone has them, the floor is now open.
Yeah, I got one thing. I'm looking at the convert up bonus, and I'm looking at how we implemented the convert, but how we changed the convert up bonus when the system has a very low crop ratio. For everyone's reference, when every season we increase the bonus of the convert up system by the delta between Pinto and the seeds, or the LP with the highest seeds. And when the system has a lower than 100% crop ratio, we switch into a different metric, because obviously the highest seeds, LP minus the Pinto seed, is a negative value. So what we do right now is that if there's demand for converts and the system is below 100% crop ratio, we actually decrease it by a static relative amount, in this case 1%. And I was looking at the chart, and this week, I think we saw 2 small converts, minor converts. Just look at the silo. I think there was one of like 5 and 100 or so. But it decreased the bonus by 2%. And, that seems pretty aggressive to me. I feel like a more reasonable implementation in hindsight would have been to make it a function of the seasons, the target seasons to convert. If you remember that, Ben. Not sure. I mean, it's weird because, when we have a very low crop ratio, the system is, trying to hold its LP, whereas we still have this dynamic with the convert up bonus. So it is like conflicting there. So I'm not sure if this is too slow, or this is too aggressive or not. I guess what worries me is that in 100 consecutive seasons of just increasing demand for converts, the bonus is effectively gone. And this has taken, I think, 3 months, 4 months of consistent being below the value target for it to reach 0.247 of the bonus. So for it to take less than 3 days of consistent increasing conversions, which doesn't have to be that much. Like we said, with only 100 BDV, you can effectively decrease the bonus by 1%. I wonder if that's the most effective way to do this.
Very interesting. So I want to understand the specifics of what you're saying here. So the amount of the bonus itself goes up incredibly slowly, whereas the amount that it comes down when there's increasing demand, in the instance where the seeds on Pinto are greater than the seeds for LP, is quite aggressive, such that in practice the convert bonus doesn't go up much in reality. It doesn't have a real effect.
Yeah, I mean, the opposite. So when the seeds of Pinto or when the seeds of LP exceeds the seeds of Pinto, like right now, Pinto USDC has 7 seeds, Pinto has 3 seeds. So in the case where this only occurs when the L2SR is extremely low, as defined as the protocol. Otherwise the protocol would naturally reach to its 200% crop ratio in this state. In that instance, I think the magnitude of increase and decrease are relatively balanced. So, I think it has an easier time to go up. Right now it doesn't go up at all. It only goes down when we're at extremely low L2SRs.
Very interesting. And what were you proposing as a better way to do it?
Yeah, so in the convert up bonus system, we have a metric which is the target seasons. This is the number of seasons if once the capacity has reached its maximum, how many seasons would it take to return to its value target, right? And this ranges between 500 to 1,000. We should. My proposal is to decrease the bonus as a function of that. So if it takes 1,000 seasons to, if our value is 1,000 seasons, then we should really decrease this by 0.1% instead of 1%. And if it's 500 seasons, we should decrease it by 0.5%.
0.2%.
0.2%, apologies. Yeah, 0.2%, such that, by the time the bonus gets to 0, we should be much closer to value target.
But in practice, I guess the point is by creating the symmetry here a bit, the convert bonus, let's say that we find some convert bonus per PDV that results in a sufficient incentive for people to convert, in theory, all the way to peg, right? But we toggle the bonus up and down because in one season we have demand and then we fall below it and there's no demand. Sort of like this situation that Tractor resolves, which we've written quite extensively about in the field and also talked about it briefly in the context of converts. In practice, this would mean that the bonus would sort of oscillate above and below this bonus such that we could really expect, assuming there was an infinite demand to convert at that convert bonus for PDV, to return to the value target at the double whatever that rate is. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, that seems fair.
Right. So we said 500 seasons. That would mean it would take 1,000 seasons in the best case to get back to the value target.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because the bonus at which people are willing to convert isn't fixed. So that theoretical, most basic circumstance that I just outlined isn't realistic per se. If people are converting at a certain bonus at some level, you'd expect other people to start to be willing to convert at lower bonuses. So if we found sufficient demand for bonuses and people were actively, really playing the system efficiently, we'd expect it to take less, but I think it's still a good proxy. Yeah, I think this makes sense. Which are the cases under which this would take effect?
Sorry, I was muted. It would occur when the system is in an extremely low L2SR. Oh, sorry. L2, no, not sorry. It's when the Pinto seeds or when the LP seeds, the highest LP seeds exceeds the Pinto seeds, but that's caused by the extremely low L2SR.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, let's definitely sit on this a little bit, but I think it's a solid proposal, and generally, I think we should be trying to implement such a fix, or an improvement, I should say. That sounds great. I think you're muted again, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I guess say the protocol finds, a bonus in which there is demand to return back your value target, earn the current scheme, given that the convert bonus never increases at certain instances, in practice, you can't really find that number, right? Uh,
What do you mean the
yeah,
convert bonus never increases?
when the Pinto LP seeds exceed the Pinto seeds, the bonus doesn't increase. So you can look at the graph right now, and it's just a stagnant number.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is something we talked quite a bit about, right? Like the system in this moment is trying to preserve liquidity. We haven't necessarily figured out the best method for the protocol to slowly convert itself back to the value target while preserving its liquidity as much as possible. At some level, this is the way to do it, though. Like the convert bonus is the mechanism through which this can happen, right? Because when you're changing the seeds, to your point before, Frijo, like when we're below the excessively low L2SR, the Pinto, the crop ratio comes down to its minimum, and the result is that holding Pinto in the silo is disincentivized relative to the maximum LP. And given that that's how we calculate the increase in the bonus, typically the result is that the bonus never increases. But at some level, like increasing the bonus, which is more of a one-off thing because you can limit the capacity of the bonus, there is a way for the system to sort of meter the amount of converts to make sure that it's happening slowly, such that in theory you can have converts while monitoring or making sure that people that are still going to leave at the lowest price. So here we run into the same problem we were talking about a couple weeks ago with Ford Pinto, where it's like now the protocol has to really decide when it wants converts, right? And that is this is what, at least in my mind, is the layer 5 of the protocol, of the economic layer, I should say, economic mechanism. So yeah, I think in the short term, we probably do want to explore some alternate rule that would allow for the convert bonus per PDV to increase even with an excessively low L2SR. And yeah, I think we probably do want to explore that at this point. this is the beauty of having the system live, like it's very hard given that we've got like 144 cases, or I think we even have more now because we added the extremely high debt level. It's like actually having the real world data and being in these circumstances really allows you to think through the incentives at a deeper level. So it's obviously it's a bit painful here at 40 cents, but in my mind, it's great to be collecting data like this. Thanks for bringing this up, Frijo. I think we should talk more about this.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, what else, folks?
I mean, in the background of this conversation is, I think this is great game theory, but particularly in these early days where it may be that people just aren't paying attention, and even if the convert bonus increased a lot, they wouldn't convert. Is there actions that we can take beyond the incentives if people aren't checking them to convert that value back?
Yeah, I mean, we've always struggled with this question, right? Because on the one hand, the interface, there's a very strong argument that the interface for the protocol should be unbiased and should be designed to make it such that people can really interface with the protocol with a very low degree of friction, and not be pushed to do one thing or another per se. Because ultimately, the protocol, while it creates incentives that encourage certain behavior, there is no right answer in many instances, right? So a lot of things are dependent on people's perspective about what will happen, which makes it a little bit difficult to tell people this is what you should do. Instead, all the protocol can do is create more and more aggressive incentives that should make it such that more people that are paying attention, the efficient thing for them to do would be to perform certain actions that are helpful to the system. And this is a major friction in reality because the general idea is that to tell people you should convert, it's quite aggressive. It's not something that is very aligned with the general design or the game of Pinto. Like it doesn't exactly jive. So we can, add stuff to the interface, like when you log in, if you have stuff to convert, we can add a sign, right, that you have to click through saying like, have you converted? The system has creates, right now there's heavy incentives to convert. If you haven't converted, we strongly encourage you to consider doing so. We can do stuff like that, right? But frankly, I think that the bigger thing that has to happen is now that we have Tractor integrated into the silo, the real thing to do is when people deposit, and this is obviously a bit contingent on new people depositing, but when new value enters the system, I think in that moment, we should really prompt them to sign their blueprints, such that we don't the system doesn't fall into this circumstance moving forward where there's no activity, right? Now we still at some level fall into that same issue where it's like you don't necessarily want to tell people what settings to make in their orders, because again, it depends on their preferences. But this is part of the new UI work that's being scoped out, where with a tractor focus, we want to really make it such that users feel empowered to make, good decisions while they're signing their blueprints to maximize their yield. So obviously that's contingent on new capital entering the system, but in my mind, it's a good time for that to happen now that layer 4 of the mechanism is complete. So I think we're still a couple months away on the front end being at a point where it's going to be ready to do that, right? Like, this is quite a significant overhaul, as we've talked about on the front end. But it'll be a big deal once it's done. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot we can do, right? We can post in the Discord, convert. We can add a banner on the website, please convert. There's a million things we can do, but doing it in line with our values and the general way that the system has been designed is a little bit trickier. So, yeah, this has been something we've struggled with for many years at this point.
Thanks.
What else, folks? All right, well, on my end, I think the most interesting conversations or questions at this point about the model are one, the governance question. So I'm looking forward to, over the next couple of months, talking more about the fork system and what it would look like to reintroduce governance into a system like this. And as a related question, what it would take to feel comfortable moving to a non-emergency multi-sig system. Like, the fact of the matter is, even when we had Beanstalk, which did have on-chain governance, Publius still had control of a multi-sig. And I was quite inspired. I just read the new Vitalik post on trustlessness, the Trustlessness Manifesto, which was co-authored actually by a friend of mine, Marissa Posner, which was really great to see her name on there. But the point is that they were making is, ultimately you're committed to trustlessness or not. And the way that they define trustlessness is a little bit different than how we have defined trustlessness in our values documentation. They include permissionlessness and trustlessness, which is, I think, open question if those are one value or two values. But the point is, ultimately, if we are committed to creating a new money, I do think at some level we have to figure out a method to get away from multi-sig governance. And the reality is that the only way to do that in practice is we have to make sure that the fork system, as we implement it, is sort of set up for this, right? So at some level, the immutability, one of the interesting things about this article is that they said, delegation is okay, which is something that we've slowly come around to here in the Beanstalk universe as well over the past couple years, but it shouldn't be the default. And this is where, as we talk a little bit about the fork system, it's like, ultimately, if the contracts are totally immutable, right? I mean, one thing just to say as a caveat, it's much more dangerous for contracts on another network, that is run by a social consensus separate from the contracts to be immutable. Like, that's just a major risk from the perspective that if there's a bug, if you have a bug in an L1, you can always roll back the chain. And you can actually do that in a way that is aligned with trustlessness, assuming you have a distributed social consensus. So that is a fundamentally different security state space than one where you have a smart contract on a network where the social consensus doesn't really care. This was the problem that Beanstalk ran into, where, of course, if you asked all of the stockholders in the moments immediately prior to the exploit, if they wanted to roll back the system, it would have been almost a unanimous yes. We don't want to have our money stolen. But because Beanstalk was a set of contracts on Ethereum, which is governed by a social consensus that is focused first and foremost on credible neutrality, so much so that they're not going to roll back the chain even if a couple $100 million gets stolen. It's much riskier. So the trade-off here is now it's like, okay, well, let's say that you have an immutable contract on a system where you have social consensus that you don't control. The fact of the matter is, it's still a risky business, and what you want in such an instance is you do need to have like preventative stuff. So something like Hypernative, you'd probably want a version of Hypernative that can have you like migrate to some safe haven contract or something. I don't know what that would look like exactly. But it's like, let's say that you don't have a fork deployed, but there's a bug discovered. There has to be a way to like safely remove your value, even if it's temporarily. And this sort of goes against the stock system, but not really if it's implemented just for this like niche circumstance. Separately, you don't want people getting stuck, even if there's not necessarily a bug. But the same friction that we're having with converts, where some people are just not paying attention, you really don't want people to get left behind, right? Like, oh, I turned away for 2 years, and people somehow forked into a new system, and now it turns out I don't have any of my money, right? Because money's a social thing, and all of the value, all of the people left the system, but I didn't get the memo. I wasn't paying attention. It obviously is quite an unattractive value proposition if that can ever happen. Like, it's hard to be a store of value or even a good unit of account if that's the case. So, we talk constantly about the economics here, but a tremendous amount of thought has gone into how to do governance. And I think the big open question is whether or not in this next version of things, it makes sense to have our own social consensus, right? Such that these types of exploits can never happen again. Even if there was some sort of exploit, as long as the bridges out of the system are sufficiently low or sufficiently high latency such that there's a way to protect the system. I think that's a meaningful way to add significant security to the system. So the fork system is a way to get immutable upgrades, which is removing one layer of trust or permissioning and gets us to trustlessness. But security is another major, arguably a bigger issue, right? So that's this is a conversation that I'm just starting to sort of throw out there as I think over the next couple of months, as we get closer to deploying the fork system, it's good for us to be having these conversations with the community. So that's probably the most interesting thing on my mind at the moment. Curious if people have questions or thoughts. Cool. I just passed a little sign. I'm in New York that says "Money shaped by you" for the Cash App. But I think that's a pretty good tagline. Money shaped by you. Whatever. Not to digress too much. But interesting how people are selling money these days. All right. The only other thing I think I want to mention at the moment is with respect to the parameterization of the convert bonus. This really is the most sophisticated piece of the mechanism we've created so far. So appreciate very much Frijo's ideas on where things are perhaps misparameterized, and hoping that over the next couple of months we continue to explore the state space with respect to the positioning of the system, where we can learn more and more about how to further refine as much as possible the specifics here. So ultimately getting the thing live is just a major step. In the grand scheme of things, we are going to have to iteratively parameterize this thing as we have everything else. Relatedly, we a couple months ago changed the excessively low L2SR threshold from 12% to 6%. And recently we crossed below that ratio, which, when we originally did that, when we made that change, the thought was there wasn't a significant amount of value leaving the system. The system wanted to incentivize converts, and once the system is below its excessively low L2SR threshold, it no longer does that effectively, because as we were talking about, now the incentives for holding LP, or at least the highest LP, are double the incentives for holding Pinto, which means that it's not really attractive to convert from your LP to Pinto, from a seed perspective at least. So this is where we basically decided at the time, and we spoke about this, to make it such that there's a 6% L2SR, which is quite low, and obviously quite a significant departure from 12%. And all of these thresholds are ultimately set somewhat arbitrarily. We don't really have a ton of data as to how to best set them per se. So there was a conscious decision made to be more aggressive and lower the excessively low L2SR from 12% to 6%. But now we're below 6%, and we are in a bit of it is a weird state, right? Where on the one hand, in order for the system to return to health, it either needs new demand for loans, new demand for the silo, or converts. But given the excessively low L2SR, the system is really saying no more converts. Now, this is a question we've come back to many times over the past couple of years, which is, given that the system in theory can return itself to a dollar, to its value target, with no liquidity. Now, in practice, that would mean that it's exposed to significant volatility. But in theory, if people kept converting, even if people kept leaving, if then the remaining LP holders kept converting, the system would sort of be at a dollar. Although synthetically, is that better than preserving liquidity? And I think the short answer at this point is we don't know. But my instinct is not to further lower the L2SR, at least in the moment. And it does potentially dampen, per the parameterization stuff we were talking about earlier, the effect of the convert bonus. Like right now, it's not going up. So there is some interesting edge cases that we should be thinking through and trying to figure out. But it does probably, at least in the short term, make sense to preserve some liquidity. I think to lower the L2SR further, to try to have the system further incentivize converts, would honestly make more sense in the instance where we were seeing demands for converts prior to falling below this threshold again. But given the fact that we were at the max crop ratio and we still didn't really see demand for converts, I think the only real reason to do that would be to make the convert bonus system more effective. But I'm more interested at this point in thinking through other ways to do that, if that makes sense. So, yeah, a bit of additional food for thought for people there. Curious if there's any questions or thoughts there. All right, folks. I think that's it on my end. Lots of interesting stuff here as always. Yeah, it's an exciting, it's a little bit. I appreciate people might be nervous or whatever at the current price that we're at, but frankly, I find this to be a very exciting time. So, thank you all for coming, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Ben.
See you.
Bye, guys.
You.
Bye.